On 5th August, Sheikh Hasina, who was the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, resigned from her post and fled as the country was engulfed by violent protests. Following her exit, the Bangladeshi army took over and soon an interim government under Muhammad Yunus took charge of the country. Meanwhile, Bangladeshi Hindus started to get targeted by Islamists across the country. There have been more than 200 incidents of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh, with at least 30 Hindu women raped. We are not hearing about a mere humanitarian crisis in India's neighborhood. We are watching a deliberate dismantling of a community. It is a calculated attempt to silence Hindu voices forever. In this episode of Cut to the Chase with the Commune, we will update you on Bangladesh's minority Hindus. We need to know their story because these Hindus have been resisting systematic patterns of persecution for the last 78 years. This is a story that began even before Bangladesh was created, and a story you definitely have to remember. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and engage with the Commune Mag on X, Facebook, Instagram, ShareChat, and Flipboard. You can also read our news and views on our website www.thecommunemag.com. We have also mentioned all these links in the description below. Let's first quickly understand what's happening in Bangladesh. Youth in Bangladeshi universities have had problems with the structure of a quota system for government jobs. In this system, 56% of entry positions are reserved for special classes, 30% for children or grandchildren of 1971 freedom fighters, 10% for women, 10% for districts based on population, 5% for ethnic minorities, and 1% for people with disabilities. Some students wanted changes in this system. Among other demands, they wanted to reduce the 56% reservation for special classes, dominated by people close to ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, to a mere 10%. They also wanted to reduce the quota for war veterans' families to 5%. They tried unsuccessfully in the campus protests of 2008 and 2013 to push the government to change this system. However, in 2018, these protests were relatively violent, with nearly 262 students injured. Sheikh Hasina's government agreed to make some changes to the system to prevent the situation from escalating further. In June 2024, the Supreme Court of Bangladesh reversed these changes and reinstated the old quota system. Certain groups of students in Bangladeshi universities claimed they had a limited merit-based opportunity in such a quota system and launched a protest. What made the situation worse? To suppress the protests, the government closed colleges and emboldened the Chhatra League, the pro-government student wing, and its allies to use weapons against demonstrators on campuses. A shoot-at-sight curfew and internet blackout with social media ban were enforced. Soon enough, Bangladeshi opposition parties joined this movement, which spread aggressively throughout the country. On August 3rd, as a last attempt at peace, Sheikh Hasina offered to hold talks with protesters, but they refused. The next day, the protest took a new form and demanded Sheikh Hasina's resignation and regime change. On August 5th, Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled to India quickly. She reportedly had only 45 minutes to escape. Protesters stormed into her residence, looted all that they could find, and even flaunted her intimate clothes after she left. There are some more angles to this story. Hasina blames foreign governments, including the US, for orchestrating this turmoil. She seeks a safe asylum, while Bangladesh prepares for a new military government endorsed by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. If you want more details about this regime change and the involvement of foreign powers, please check our website www.thecommunemag.com. In this video, we focus on the plight of Bangladeshi Hindus. So how are the Bangladeshi Hindus affected by this regime change? This protest is being used as an excuse by radical groups in Bangladesh to persecute Hindus, even though that minority has no influence over Sheikh Hasina's governance, the Awami League, or any student body. These recent protests saw more than 200 attacks on Bengali Hindus, each more vicious than the other. According to the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, 45 out of 64 districts in the country had seen the targeting of mostly Hindu homes, businesses, or temples in the days after the coup. The violence continues unabated, with the UN reporting that the total number of deaths from July 16 to August 10 has reached 650 people. Many Hindu girls and women have been raped and abducted. They remain untraceable. In one such incident, a woman was raped while her 9-year-old child was held at knife point and then beat her up so that she lay unconscious in front of her house for hours. They threatened to kill her child if she spoke up about her plight and have also demanded money if she wanted to see her child alive. Reports say that she has received no assistance from the police or government. A 35-year-old Hindu woman in Tala Upazila, Satkhira district, was gang raped by a group of 30 to 35 men who broke into her house, vandalized it, and took turns raping her. She was unable to identify the perpetrators due to their covered faces. 6 madrasa students in Khulna district took responsibility for guarding a Hindu temple and a house. On that pretext, they gang raped a young girl from that Hindu household. A documentary video features multiple Hindu women residing in various parts of Pirojpur district in Bangladesh sharing their distressing experiences. One Hindu woman, a victim of the violence, recounted. She said, "They arrived with swords and other sharp weapons and looted everything. We had to give them all our belongings to protect our daughters." The journalist who made this documentary, Iman Chaudhary of Ekhon TV, lost his job for doing his job. A Hindu woman of Matua community was gang raped in Paikacha, Khulna. At least 10 temples have been vandalized, including the ISKCON temple in Meherpur with the deities of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra Devi vandalized. 3 devotees who lived in the center somehow managed to escape and survived. Radicals attacked the Hindu dormitory of Dhaka College with temples of Hindu students demolished. A temple in Jakiganj Upazila of Sylhet district was vandalized and its deities desecrated. 84-year-old Hindu leader of the Awami League, Ramesh Chandra Sen, was arrested and has been charged under the Explosive Substances Act. According to local media reports, Sen was having dinner when plainclothes officers arrived at his home and instructed him to prepare to leave. Professor Satya Prasad Majumdar resigned as Vice Chancellor of Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology due to quote-unquote personal reasons. Padma Shri awardee and filmmaker Ritwik Ghotak's ancestral home in Bangladesh was demolished after a group of students hired paid laborers to demolish the building. Renowned Bangladeshi musician Rahul Ananda's home in Dhaka was attacked by a violent mob. The attackers ransacked the house, grabbing anything they could lay their hands on. Then they burnt the entire house, including Rahul Ananda's musical equipment, which numbered over 3,000. The musician, along with his wife and teenage son, fled the attack. Hindu teachers and Hindus employed in government jobs are being fired or made to resign. One of the calls to action by the jihadi mobs was that all those police officers and government employees who wore a red thread on their wrist need to be burnt alive. A political party called Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is an Islamic terrorist organization, held a rally at the north gate of Baitul Mukarram in Dhaka, where they called for the establishment of the Khalifa in Bangladesh. Distress messages sent by Bangladeshi Hindus to prominent pro-Hindu voices in India reveal that the situation is much worse than being reported. Many Hindus sent desperate pleas for help to pro-Hindu groups and influential voices in India. They were not venturing out because they knew they would be attacked if they were identified as Hindus. Some Hindus managed to record these attacks from their phones and share them with others through the internet. There are also reports that hospitals refused to treat Hindu patients, saying it was their right to do so. Op India reported that more than 50 Hindus have died because they were denied treatment by hospitals owing to their religious identity. And all this is just the tip of the iceberg. Ironically, this isn't the first time innocent Hindus have been persecuted in Bangladesh for their religious identity. Let's look at all the times in history when radical groups decided to further their political ambitions by butchering, looting, and raping Hindus. It is common knowledge that Bangladesh was formed in 1971. Before that, it was East Pakistan. But did you know that events before Pakistan's formation set the template for the treatment of Hindus? Direct Action Day 1946. On 16th August 1946, the Muslim League Council, led by Bengal Prime Minister Hossain Sohrawardi, declared Direct Action Day to mark their demand for a separate Muslim homeland after the British left India. The party chose this date because it marked the anniversary of the Battle of Badr, a significant early victory for Islam. The All India Muslim League deliberately used violence to intimidate ordinary Hindus into agreeing to break India into three pieces. Since Sohrawardi strategized the Direct Action Day, he directed the Calcutta police under him to look the other way. The ominous day began with a massive public meeting at the Calcutta Maidan. The assembly grew as the meeting concluded. These groups then moved towards the city's shopping centers, immediately looting Hindu shops and houses. They spread through the town shouting, "Pakistan Zindabad, Muslim League Zindabad, Lekar Rahenge Pakistan and Ladkar Lenge Pakistan." Then the massacre to force Hindus to agree to split India began. Hindu populated areas burned in flames in no time through the night with cries of "Ladke Lenge Pakistan." An additional judge of Alipur court was killed while trying to save a young boy fleeing from the hoodlums. Until 17th noon, there was no sign of any policeman. A mob of violent Islamists attacked Victoria College. All the girls were raped in the classroom, then killed and hung naked from the windows. They displayed naked bodies of Hindu girls from hooks at Raja Bazar beef shops. Many rapists were armed with iron bars and lathis that they used on these girls. They also set fire to Hindu slum areas and butchered Hindu groups. In Metia Burus, more than 700 Bihari and Oriya laborers were butchered by a mob led by Sayyid Abdullah Farooqi, a local Communist Party leader. Farooqi was also the president of the Textile Workers Union and led a vast armed mob into the mill compound of Kesoram cotton mills in Lichubagan. Hindu laborers, who were also the part of the same union, showed their cards to the bloodthirsty mobs, only to be laughed at and murdered. Their bodies were chopped and thrown into the Hooghly River. These mobs ransacked Hindu households in different parts of Calcutta, murdering family members, looting and setting houses on fire. The violence stopped, but not for long. 10 days later, on Eid, a group of Hindu fishermen were attacked with deadly weapons while fishing in the Feni River. One was killed and two were seriously injured. In another incident, 9 Hindu fishermen from Charuria were severely assaulted with deadly weapons, resulting in 7 being admitted to the hospital. Noakhali massacres, 1946. 2 months after the Direct Action Day in October, on Kojagiri Lakshmi Puja, radical groups in Chittagong's Noakhali district unleashed a series of organized massacres, rape and abductions of Hindus, along with widespread looting and arson of their properties. These targeted attacks lasted for a month, the reason being reinforcing the Direct Action Day. This Noakhali genocide affected areas covering more than 2,000 square miles. It began on October 10 and continued for about a month. During this period, around 50,000 Hindus were trapped in the affected areas under strict surveillance. Many Hindus had to get permission from gang leaders to travel outside. How is this any different from what is happening to them in Bangladesh now? Just take a look at the countless messages they are sending Hindus in India seeking help for the sake of dharma. Has much changed? In Noakhali, village after village were forcibly converted. The number of Hindu women raped or converted was significantly higher than the number of Hindus killed. It is said that at least 95% of Hindus of Noakhali were converted to Islam after they were robbed of all they possessed. Soon after, a brutal partition followed. Partition 1947. After the British departed, the partition of India created 3 regions: Bharat, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Even though the populations of East and West Pakistan were nearly equal, political power and decision making remained mostly in West Pakistan. The authorities in West Pakistan viewed the Muslims in the East as too Bengali. They considered the Bengali interpretation of Islam to be inadequate. West Pakistani authorities then decided to standardize the Bengali culture according to their terms. In March 1948, during a civic reception in Dhaka, Pakistan's founder, Jinnah, declared that Urdu and only Urdu will remain as the state language of Pakistan. This announcement sparked immediate protests from Dhaka University students. Then there was a military crackdown in East Pakistan. Army units were deployed to villages specifically targeting Hindu communities because for the Punjabi Pakistani, the Hindu, Indian, and Bengali identities were interchangeable. They unleashed a violent attack on these identities. No area was untouched by this persecution. There were even instances where Hindu women were also massacred. 1971, the birth of Bangladesh. The Hindu population of Bangladesh suffered considerably even though Bharat helped in Bangladesh's liberation. Pakistanis who blamed Bharat and Hindus for the secession unleashed a series of targeted executions, rape, and other human rights abuses against Hindus in East Pakistan. The genocide began on 25th March 1971 when the Pakistani military launched a 10-month campaign against the Bengalis, especially Hindus. This campaign constituted a clear case of genocide as outlined by the United Nations Genocide Convention. Within a couple of days, around 1.5 million Bengalis were displaced. By November 1971, approximately 10 million Bengalis, predominantly Hindus, had sought refuge in India. Some experts estimate the number of raped women and girls to be closer to 400,000. Pakistani imams declared Bengali Hindu women as war booty, and fatwas were issued, legitimizing them as spoils of war. Many of these women either died in captivity, committed suicide, or fled to India. On 26 May 1971, Pakistani Army's Captain Nuruddin identified Hindus in Burunga, tied them to ropes, took them to Burunga High School ground, and fired at them with a machine gun. His troops then burned these bodies using kerosene. This 10-month campaign culminated in the Bangladesh Liberation War and a subsequent 13-day Indo-Pakistan War. Both wars concluded on 16 December 1971 when Pakistan surrendered and Bangladesh was formed. Did this vicious series of violence finally satiate the radicals' thirst for Hindu blood? Not really. In October 1990, 2 years before the actual demolition of the Babri structure, a rumor spread in Bangladesh that the structure has been destroyed. This led to widespread violence, resulting in the demolition of over 3,500 temples and sexual assaults on more than 2,400 Hindu women. Hindu properties were set ablaze, and the Human Rights Congress for Bangladesh Minorities reported that these attacks occurred in the presence of police authorities. During 1989-90 alone, over 1,000 Hindu women were raped, hundreds of temples were demolished, and Hindu homes were looted and burnt. Imagine a massacre of this scale over an unverified gossip. In 1992, when the Babri structure was finally demolished, Bengali Hindus were targeted again. These attacks began in December 1992 and continued till March 1993. On 7 December 1992, the Shakti Peeth, Dhakeshwari temple was attacked and the Bholanath Giri ashram in Dhaka was looted. In Chittagong district, 2 villages were wholly burned. 5 Hindu temples, including Panchanan Dham and Tulsi Dham, were attacked and damaged. By the time the violence subsided, it was reported that 10 Hindus had been killed and numerous Hindu temples and homes had been destroyed. Jamaat-e-Islami, an ally of the then ruling Bangladesh Nationalist Party, was involved in the persecution. These wounds remained raw and frequently scrapped. These victims never received any justice, and attempts to prosecute alleged perpetrators have often ignited fresh rounds of violence in recent years. The International Crimes Tribunal was set up in 2009 to try those accused of abuses during 1971. This tribunal became increasingly politicized as many accused are associated with Khalida Zia's Bangladeshi Nationalist Party, BNP, or Jamaat-e-Islami. For example, on 28 February 2030, Delwar Hossain Sayyidi, a Bangladeshi Islamist politician and the vice president of Jamaat-e-Islami, was convicted on 16 charges, including murder, looting, arson, rape, and forcible conversion of Hindus to Islam, and sentenced to death on 2 counts. In the weeks following the judgment, several Hindu establishments, including houses, businesses, and temples, were attacked, vandalized, and burned down by his supporters. The violence was spread out across the country, and Hindus living in all the divisions of Bangladesh were affected. More than 50 temples were attacked, and over 1,500 homes were reportedly destroyed. Similar scapegoating has occurred after almost every national election in Bangladesh, with the Hindu community targeted as the presumed vote bank of the Awami League by opposition supporters and extremists. In early 2014, in the build-up to the election, Hindus were subjected to threats and attacks because extremists wanted to assert their weight in Bengali society. In the wake of the Awami League's electoral victory, a large number of Hindu temples burned down, vandalized, and looted. In Malopara, Jamaat-e-Islami activists spread false riot rumors to incite large-scale attacks against Hindus. As many as 500 Hindu families from Gopalpur village alone lost their homes in the violence. And it isn't as if Hindus are attacked for political ambitions alone. Laws in Bangladesh are structured in such a way that Hindu communities suffer disproportionately from land grabbing enabled by the so-called Vested Property Act. This act allows authorities to take over enemy land, much of it belonging to Hindus. This act led to the dispossession of 2.6 million acres between 1965 and 2006, depraving 1.2 million Hindu households. Since then, some Hindus have made numerous attempts to reclaim their lands. Many who attempted to restore property ownership were reportedly intimidated. Thousands of cases were delayed due to the legal red tape, and only a few were resolved. Extremist militants also target Bangladeshi Hindus. On 5th December 2015, a series of blasts targeting a Hindu ceremony in Dinajpur left 6 worshippers injured. A few days later, another temple in Dinajpur was attacked with guns and bombs, leaving 9 injured. Communal violence also remains commonplace. Between January and June 2016, violence targeting Hindus in Bangladesh resulted in the burning of 66 homes, 24 people being injured, and the destruction of at least 49 temples, monasteries, or statues. Much of this violence is carried out at a local level by individuals or groups rather than militants. They are often driven by personal disputes and greed over Hindu land. Within the Hindu community, the Dalit population remains especially vulnerable. Besides exclusion from many areas of employment, they have also been subjected to land grabbing, violence, and forced conversion. Bengali Hindus have faced terrible religious persecution in the last 100 years solely because of their religious identity. The identity of the unwanted kafir. From around 28 to 30% of the population, the Hindus have been reduced to a mere 7.96%. Those in India whose hearts were bleeding for Gaza have turned a blind eye to the persecution of Hindus in neighboring Bangladesh. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, who had put a social media post congratulating caretaker chief advisor Muhammad Yunus, did not even mention a word about the persecution of Hindus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has raised the plight of Hindus in Bangladesh with Yunus. However, the recent events in Bangladesh once again underline the need for a legislation like CAA 2019 that gives refuge to the persecuted Hindus living in Islamist countries in India's neighborhood. That's it for now. See you in the next episode of Cut to the Chase with the Commune.